Alright guys, so it's the next day. Working on getting this thing fired. I want to show you a little contraption I made here for putting some fuel pressure to it. So I just put a quick connect fitting for air on one end, some PVC, run into a hose on the other end. Now I probably could have done this out of metal pipe, but PVC is a heck of a lot cheaper. Everything I've read, PVC should be gasoline resistant, and Schedule 40 1.5-inch pipe is good up to about 200, 250 psi. So this should be plenty. We've also got, you got to make sure you got the fuel injection hose here. Run it over to fuel rails, and I used one of the fittings I had left over for the return line. Unfortunately, I didn't have one for the feed line, but the return line I had one of the fittings. Ran it to a piece of hose, found a spark plug, blocked off the line pretty well, and just hose clamped them both down. Tested it up to about 85 psi, so I'm going to be running it probably around 40 or 50. So at those pressures, it seems like it doesn't leak at all. Need to put some gas in it. Of course, the design I used here is not all that great. You gotta unthread the piece there to put any fuel in it, but I mean, I don't really plan on using this long term. It's just something I threw together for a couple of bucks, mostly using parts we had lying around the house to test the fuel pressure and make sure the engine actually runs. So I also went ahead and got all the plug wires put on. Unfortunately, I only have like 2 of those metal boots. I'm gonna have to try to grab more from the junkyard next time I'm there. And then of course, finally, one of the big things is I did finally put power to the computer. So I've got this wire here. Now everyone online, there's a guy online who says, oh, you only need 2 wires to power the entire thing, right? You need the power feed, which is right here, and then you need the pin A9. Well, it's not entirely true. There is an extra pin that goes to the fuse on the interior panel that provides the power to the ECM and the transmission solenoids. So you do need to wire that. If anyone has any questions on which wires those are, I can post them in the comments. But you can see if I go ahead and hook it up, I get all the relays clicking on and off, and of course, you can tell I got the electronic throttle there working. I got the pedal over here, just piling on a bunch of this stuff over here. Throttle module, and I went ahead and I've got a little Bluetooth OBD2 port there. Connected my phone to it, and other than the expected emissions controls codes, everything checks out as far as non-running status of the computer. So gonna put some fuel in it here and go ahead and fire it up. Now, like I said, I don't have VATS unprogrammed yet, so it'll just fire up for like a second and then die. But you could do that a couple of times and see. Oh, I still need to put oil in it too. I did pick up some oil and a filter, so we could do that. I guess I'll get on that. Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh.
Here's the.
That's what I'm talking about.
Try it again. That's all it's gonna do with the security program, but start.
That's what I'm talking about.
Make those pipes ring a little bit. Something ring.
Something's still ringing. Or it's me.
One last time?
One last time?
The whole thing's moving.
So, thought I'd actually go ahead and show you the vehicle, since I haven't actually talked about the truck this engine's going into it all. Now, I know this thing doesn't exactly look like much, but this is my 91 Isuzu pickup. Same as my grandfather's truck for a long time. Got a pretty big family. It's been kind of passed around. Just about every one of my cousins has driven it and wrecked it at some point, so you can see. I mean, it really is pretty rough. I do want to try and replace the grill and all that, make it look at least semi-decent. But I actually kind of like the beat to crap little mini truck look. It should be fun driving around in. Right now this thing's got an Isuzu 4ZD1 2.3 liter and a 5-speed manual. Despite the fact that this thing is actually a cross-flow headed engine and overhead cam, it makes absolutely nothing for power. Something kind of amusing about these trucks. I don't know if you can see this thing, despite being a 91, still has a carburetor. This is the last passenger vehicle sold in the United States with a pickup. They sold these things until 1993 with a carburetor in them. So this thing maybe makes, based on like just some quick pulls down a straight road, I estimate this thing makes anywhere in the range of about 30 to 50 horsepower to the tires. So this LS is going to be a pretty substantial step up in the power department. Now, I am planning on running just the stock. It's got a GM 10.5 inch, or sorry, a 10 bolt 7.5 inch. So pretty small axle. I think I'm gonna go ahead and weld it up. I do plan on trying to do some suspension change-ups on this truck at some point. Right now, we're just trying to get the engine put in and get it running and driving. But I do, like I said, I do want to make a lot of power with it eventually, and I figure it's going to take a pretty substantial upgrade in both the rear end as well as just I'd like to try to improve on some of the handling characteristics. This thing does handle exactly like you'd expect a 90s mini truck with worn out suspension and a pathetic engine to handle, so it could really use an overhaul. But like I said, really just gonna focus on getting this engine into it. I'd rather go fast than handle well. I've always been more of a straight line type driver. Can't exactly fly around corners on the street, but I sure as heck can get up to 35 miles an hour really quickly, so it should be fun. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and start pulling this thing apart here now. Go ahead and take the hood off. I'm gonna go and pull the whole front end out. I think it'll make doing this swap a heck of a lot easier, since I've got to get in here and I've got to fabricate up engine mounts, since obviously the stock ones aren't gonna work. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get to work. Figured I'd stop and film a little update. Some friends and family stopped by real quick, so kind of slowed down here, but I've managed to get fare pit taken off, carburetor off. I'm gonna go ahead and get the Sawzall now and cut the exhaust. I tried just pulling the manifold off, got all the bolts out, but that pipe is stuck to it and it just won't budge. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut that real quick and keep on working. Hopefully try to get the engine at least ready to come out tonight. I don't know if it's gonna actually come out tonight, but get as close as we can.